The fear
So
of judgment, rejection, criticism, and
all
shame,
that stuff, all
that's
that
what
stuff.
keeps us hidden from saying who we are, what we really want. And we're highly sensitive to other people's judgments and perceptions
Oh
of us. And
gosh, yes.
even if I just imagine that you might not like me, right? And
Right.
like, George, let's just so listeners know, and I was coming onto this phone call, and of course, this is our first time to actually meet kind of in
Yeah.
person as virtual.
Right.
So I've never had actual human interaction with you. I've read your book. I've, all these things. So I'm like, I have a good sense that George is a pretty cool, pretty nice, warm guy. But there's still that little judgy, fearful part of my brain that's like, but he might get upset with me. He might not like me. And
Yeah.
listeners, what you don't know is before we hit record, the software was not smiling on us. And there was this echo, and I was like, George, I'm sorry. And you could see I was getting a little flustered. And George just sat there nice and calm. I was like, it's okay. We'll figure this out. We're going to get there. I was like, man, I like this guy. I'm down. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, you do. You listen to listen and learn to listen, and that's part of the book I just came out with is about how do you gather that listening skill, and part of it is training through
Yeah.
therapy skills, through
Right.
counseling,
Right.
but part of it is really interior, and my newest book really dives into that as well. And I know you're interested in couples, and I'd
Yeah.
love to talk about all this. I mean, with couples, I loved couples and working with them more than anything. And it was because you'd have them come in and they were fighting with each other and all
Right.
this,
Right.
and I just knew that I had enough skill to separate them in some way, mentally, and keep them boundaries
Right.
between the two of them in terms of the animosity or whatever was there, or the anxiety, and give really support to each of them and empathy to each of them, and then bring them back together again. I had enough confidence in myself. But what was beautiful was the how many times the couple, I mean, what was the privilege? And I'm sure you felt this because you were
Oh, yeah.
really into it. And
Yeah.
I was just,
Yeah.
it's just sometimes for me, but the privilege was to see the couples and you'd see them fall in love again.
Oh, I
I
mean,
mean,
you
you go,
just,
oh gosh, how did I get this to be here? Um, and that happens because, and in the work we do, you build separate torches. And I know this is
yeah.
very much part of therapy.
Yeah.